This doctor was shocked to see the horrible truth about the afterlife. There are many different religions around the world, all with different beliefs regarding what happens after we die. Some believe in reincarnation, while others believe in an afterlife where they will be reunited with loved ones who have passed on before them. But what happens when a medical professional witnesses something that defies all logic and reason? It's hard to believe, but there are some doctors out there who claim to have seen the afterlife firsthand. Their stories are often met with skepticism, but they remain adamant about what they saw. So what did these doctors actually see? And why should we listen to them even if it sounds crazy at first? In today's video, we'll be exploring the story of one particular doctor who claims to have seen the afterlife. Be sure to watch until the end to find out the shocking details of his experience. But before we dive into this story, please take some time to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos like this one. Also, make sure to hit the bell icon for notifications. Now let's get started. Number 1 doctor. Dr. Avinash Kaushik is an Indian doctor working in Australia who has been practicing medicine for over 2 decades. Dr. Kaushik is a well-respected member of the medical community and has never had any issues with his patients or colleagues. He is known for being calm and collected in all situations and always putting the needs of his patients first. However, everything changed one day when he encountered a patient that would forever alter his perspective on life and death. It all began with a routine checkup. The patient was an elderly woman who had come in for her annual physical examination. Nothing about her seemed out of the ordinary, and Dr. Keswick went through the motions of checking her blood pressure, listening to her heart and lungs, and asking about any new or concerning symptoms. But as the appointment went on, Dr. Keswick noticed something strange. The woman's vital signs were all within the normal range, but she kept telling him that she didn't feel quite right. He couldn't put his finger on it, but there was something about her demeanor that just didn't sit right with him. As the appointment continued, Dr. Kaushik tried to probe further, asking more questions and conducting additional tests. But the woman remained vague, telling him that she just didn't feel like herself but couldn't provide any specifics. Dr. Kaushik was puzzled. He had never encountered a patient who was clearly healthy but insisted that something was wrong. He tried to reassure her that everything seemed fine based on the tests and examinations he had performed, but the woman remained unconvinced. Finally, as the appointment was coming to an end, Dr. Kaushik had an epiphany. He realized that the woman wasn't actually ill, but rather she was experiencing the early stages of death. Although he had never witnessed this before, his intuition told him that this was the case. With newfound clarity, Dr. Kaushik decided to take action. Instead of dismissing the woman's concerns, he decided to perform one last test to get to the bottom of what was really going on. With a sense of urgency, Dr. Kaushik called for a chest X-ray to be taken immediately. As the medical staff rushed to carry out the test, Dr. Kaushik's mind raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was something more than a routine checkup. When the results came back, Dr. Kaushik's suspicions were confirmed. The X-ray revealed that the woman's lungs were completely filled with fluid, making it impossible for her to breathe. It was clear that she was dying, but the question remained, how could she be so healthy one moment and on the brink of death the next? As Dr. Keswick prepared to break the news to his patient, he knew that he was about to witness something truly extraordinary. With a heavy heart, he explained to the woman that her condition was terminal and that she only had a few hours left to live. But instead of succumbing to despair, the woman's face lit up with a sense of peace. She thanked Dr. Keswick for his kindness and understanding and prepared herself for what was to come. As the hours passed and the woman's life began to slip away, Dr. Keswick watched intently, eager to witness whatever might happen next. What he saw was nothing short of miraculous. As the woman's heart rate slowed and her breathing became shallower, her eyes suddenly opened wide, revealing a look of pure joy and serenity. With a final smile, the woman's eyes closed one last time and her soul departed from her body. Dr. Kaushik was stunned by what he had just witnessed. In a matter of moments, the woman had gone from being a healthy individual to being on the brink of death and finally passing away peacefully. It was an experience that defied medical explanation and left him questioning everything he thought he knew about life and death. In the aftermath of the woman's passing, Dr. Keswick found himself grappling with profound questions about the nature of existence and the possibility of an afterlife. He had witnessed firsthand the transition of a soul from a living body to the great beyond, leaving him forever changed by the experience. 2. Shocked. As the news of Dr. Keswick's incredible experience spread, people from all walks of life came forward with their own stories of witnessing similar phenomena. Some had seen the souls of loved ones pass from this world to the next, while others had even encountered beings that seemed to exist outside of human perception. Among them was Rajeshwari Devi, an Indian woman who had experienced something truly extraordinary. While visiting a temple with her husband, Rajeshwari felt a sudden urge to lie down on the floor despite not feeling unwell. To her surprise, she found herself levitating several feet above the ground and was able to observe the activities in the temple from a bird's eye view. Startled by this unexpected turn of events, Rajeshwari quickly regained control over her body and gently descended back to the floor. Although she had only experienced a few seconds of levitation, the impact was profound, leaving her with a sense of wonder and disbelief. Others shared stories of their own encounters with the supernatural. One such encounter was that of a young girl named Nidhi, who had seen the soul of her deceased grandmother enter her body during a funeral ceremony. As the family gathered together to bid farewell to their loved one, Nidhi's grandmother appeared before them in a form that defied explanation. Her soul entered her body, causing it to rise from the dead and reach out towards those gathered around. Despite the shock and confusion that followed this astonishing event, the family found solace in knowing that their grandmother had returned to them in a way that transcended the boundaries of life and death. These incredible accounts of near-death experiences, levitation and the paranormal, left many people questioning the limits of human perception and the true nature of reality. 3. Horrible truth. As more and more people came forward to share their experiences, a collective realization began to dawn on those who listened to these tales. The line between life and death was not as clear-cut as they had once believed, and the concept of an afterlife took on a whole new meaning. The idea that consciousness could continue after the physical body ceased to exist was no longer a distant possibility, but a tangible reality that had been witnessed by countless individuals across the globe. One such witness was Vinod Kumar, an Indian man who had experienced a traumatic accident that left him clinically dead for several minutes. During his time away from the land of the living, Vinod found himself in a place that was both familiar and strange. He saw his own body lying on the ground, surrounded by the concerned faces of doctors and paramedics who were desperately trying to revive him. But it was what happened next that truly astounded him. As Vinod's consciousness floated above his lifeless body, he saw a bright light emanating from a tunnel in the distance. Drawn to it, he began to move towards it, and as he did, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace and serenity wash over him. It was at that moment that Vinod realized that death was not the end, but merely a transition to another realm of existence. He felt unconditional love enveloping him, and he knew that he was being guided towards a place where he would be reunited with his loved ones who had passed before him. As he continued his journey, Vinod saw other souls that had also left their earthly bodies, and he realized that this was a common experience for all humans. He marveled at the beauty of the ethereal realm, and he knew that he was truly blessed to be witnessing this extraordinary sight. Vinod was eventually brought back to his physical body, but his perspective on life and death had been forever altered. He had seen the truth of the afterlife, and he knew that death was not something to be feared, but rather embraced as a natural part of the cycle of life. 4. Afterlife. As news of Vinod's incredible experience spread, others came forward to share their own accounts of the afterlife, each adding another piece to the puzzle of what lies beyond the veil of death. Some spoke of a place where loved ones who had passed on awaited their return, while others described a realm of pure energy and light, where the soul could be free from the limitations of the physical world. One such individual was Gopal Das, an Indian spiritual leader who had devoted his life to seeking enlightenment and understanding the mysteries of the universe. Through years of meditation and introspection, Gopal had gained profound insights into the nature of reality and he had a unique perspective to offer on the concept of the afterlife. According to Gopal, death was not an ending but a beginning, a transition from one state of being to another. He believed that the soul was immortal and that its journey through life was simply a temporary sojourn. When the time came for the soul to depart from its physical vessel, it would be greeted by a host of celestial beings who would guide it towards its next destination. These destinations varied depending on the individual and the level of consciousness they had attained during their lifetime. For those who had lived a life of virtue and enlightenment, the afterlife was a place of peace and tranquility, where they could be reunited with their loved ones who had passed before them. On the other hand, those who had lived a life of sin and suffering were said to face judgment and punishment in the afterlife. Gopal's teachings offered a glimmer of hope to those who had lost loved ones, providing them with a comforting vision of a world where death was not the end, but merely a doorway to a different realm of existence. 5. Rajiv Parti. Rajiv Parti, an Indian actor who has appeared in numerous Bollywood films and television shows, recently shared his own experience with the afterlife, which he says occurred during a visit to a holy shrine in Haryana. While in a state of deep meditation, Rajiv claims to have had a vision of his own death and the events that would unfold afterwards. In his own words, he says, "I saw myself falling from a height and breaking my head on the floor." As he continued to meditate, Rajiv's vision shifted, and he found himself in a place that he describes as the afterlife. What he saw there defied the traditional notions of heaven and hell that many people hold. Instead, Rajiv describes the afterlife as a realm where souls are judged based on their actions while they were alive. He says that some souls are sent to a positive energy zone, while others are sent to a negative energy zone. Those in the positive zone are said to experience peace and happiness, while those in the negative zone face torment and suffering. Rajiv's vision also showed him that the time spent in the afterlife is not eternal. Rather, it is a temporary state that eventually ends when the soul is either elevated to a higher level of consciousness or is reincarnated into a new body. This concept is in line with the Hindu belief in reincarnation, which holds that the soul is reborn into a new body after death, depending on the karma accumulated during its previous life. Rajiv's experience offers a unique perspective on the concept of the afterlife, suggesting that death is not the end of the story, but rather a transition to a different realm of existence, where the soul continues to evolve and progress.